Welcome to my Qilin review. This is a remake of an older video I made back when this channel was just getting started. So, let's get started on Qilin. It's an anti-racism PSA, specifically an anti-racial profiling PSA. Not only do they bungle the message, but they also bungle the animation. I'm showing stills, but trust me, watching the animation hurts. We open with Sabine doing Chinese things, like using one of those tearing off calendars. I think it's a more Chinese thing to write phone numbers on the back of these things, or emails nowadays, or that was just probably my family. She also does Tai Chi. The animation for the Tai Chi looks like crap. It feels like a rubber robot is doing the motions. It just doesn't feel natural. It honestly feels like someone should have mocapped this with an actual person, rather than just do whatever they did. This episode also reveals that Sabine teaches a Chinese painting class. Not sure why she doesn't teach her daughter Mandarin or this Chinese painting. Hell, this could be turned into a storyline. It's possible that some people in the diaspora don't teach their kids Mandarin or Cantonese or Hokkien or whatever Sinitic language I missed because they just don't see the utility in it. Or, in my experience, it's more common for parents to teach them to speak the language, but on a bare bones level. Everyday speech level's a bare bones level, but they're not taught to read it, and they gradually use it less and less until their use of the language starts fading completely. I mean, whenever Marinette's Chinese heritage is brought up in this series, it's always about Adrian for some reason. This series is no stranger to whitewashing accusations, as Marinette's features in earlier promotional material were more obviously Asian, but I'm getting ahead of myself and on a tangent here. Sabine and Marinette have a mother-daughter lunch day. After kicking a man from wrongfully occupying the handicap spot on a bus, go Sabine, Marinette has gotten off the bus in order to go flower shopping. The problem is that Marinette was holding the bus tickets. Then we see the ticket inspector be a ticket inspector jerk type. Naturally, he gives her a citation, and the citation can't be paid because Marinette has Sabine's wallet. Whoopsies. Naturally, Sabine gets arrested by Roger. You know the police brutality plot beats pretty well. The mildest things Sabine does, like sounding annoyed, is treated as her getting aggressive. Her reaching for her phone is treated as reaching for a weapon. And of course, the disproportionate response in the form of a SWAT team. Where do I even begin with this scene? Roger, you're an idiot. You know Sabine. Sabine knows you. Your daughter knows Sabine. Your daughter goes to the same school as Sabine's daughter. Be mildly reasonable in this episode. I know an episodic show like this tends to have characterization of background characters be constantly in flux, but this is absolute stupidity. Don't bring continuity up if you're not going to utilize it. We've seen Roger. We've seen him be an absolute idiot in prior episodes, so it's very easy to mistake his disproportionate response as him just simply being an idiot. Despite his jackass actions, such as smashing Sabine's items, this episode never calls out the Ticketmaster's racism or Roger's disproportionate response. Which is especially sad when you realize this episode aired in 2022. And in 2021, when this was produced, we would have seen a wave of anti-Asian racism. You've seen plenty of stories where Asian people across the world felt authority was absolutely absent from their plight in the face of the increased incidents of race-based violence and harassment, with some being utterly dismissive of hate crimes. And France was not immune. A French paper called the virus the Yellow Alert, with French Asians clapping back saying they were not viruses. So, you can understand why people were a bit pissed off, because it's never actually called racism. It's almost as if this episode was written without the implication in mind, and they just sort of retroactively made it about racism. You know what ensues. Akuma, say hello to Qilin. I'll give them credit for this. The handcuffs were actually an interesting aspect of the design. The problem is everything else. This honestly looks like they wanted to go into the reject pile for Ikari Gozen and just reuse it. And I googled generic Chinese armor, and this was the first result I got. Yes. Absolutely, and I am sure it's going to be the first result you get. It's a Wikipedia image, so it's not hard to get that as a first result. Oh, and the mythological Qilin are associated with good fortune because, haha, irony right here, which is bad fortune. In more demonstrations of police stupidity, we see them send everything in order to beat Qilin. That goes about as well as you'd expect. Seriously, Roger is on call with a general. All this to apprehend Qilin. Now, this could be some kind of reference to disproportionate police response, But this is a supervillain using magic. I think disproportionate response from a regular human level would be an underproportionate response. Is that even a word? Under lowballing it? Okay, lowballing it when it comes to supervillains using magic. There's also how Miraculous continues its traditions of making Asian villains speak as if they are reading off of fortune cookie fortunes. Move the mountains, climb the lightning bolt, hang from the clouds. What's wrong with just saying something simple like flash fire fist? The only time she doesn't do this is when she's saying, "Get these handcuffs off me," or a permutation thereof, or when she says the moral of the episode, integrity without intelligence is just blind ignorance. If only this episode bothered calling it racial profiling and racism. The objective is to remove the cuffs from her, but surprise, surprise, Roger is a moron, and the ticket inspector is also a moron. Ladybug and Cat Noir need to steal the keys off of him in order to end the plot. Yes, these two incompetent adults who were doing so well in their fight against a magical supervillain thinks they can take on the magical superheroes who spend every waking day of their lives beating magical supervillains. How stupid do you need to be in order to think you can stand a snowball's chance in hell against your premier heroes? And in the end, Marinette takes responsibility for this shitty situation, and the guys, being both racist and incompetent, get exactly what they want with zero repercussions. Cue happy music ending. This episode sucks. The animation is stilted and painful. The dialogue sucks. The moral against racism feels tacked on, as if they retroactively made it a moral against racism. Because if you just look at this, it looks like any regular old Miraculous police-based stupidity because the cops in Miraculous are utterly incompetent already. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happened on a normal day to a normal French person who, I guess, isn't Sabine? It's just especially baffling when Sabine ends up ultimately paying for the buffoonery anyway. Roger is somehow dumber than usual. I went over that. And in the end, the racist buffoons get no comeuppance for their idiocy, and by the power vested in me by virtue of being my video, I sentence Roger and the ticket inspector to an American geography test with all might. That's it for this video. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.